I'd like to share with you now Rabbi Arthur Waskow's and the Shalom Center's Mourners Kaddish in time of war and violence. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah. May the great name of the Holy One be affirmed in all its holiness and greatness throughout the world. May all of the beings in the universe, now and in all times, before and yet to come, find their names woven with compassion to make up the great name. May we each find the great name woven of all names, living also at the heart of our own name. May the names of all whom we can no longer touch, but who have touched our hearts and lives, remain a light within our memories and in the great name. May the names of all who have died in violence and war be kept a light in our sight and in the great name, with sorrow that we were not yet able to shape a world in which they would have kept on living. May the great name bearing all these names live within each one of us. Yama Divrach Yirutei, Yamlichma Kirtei, V'chayachun, Uvyomchun, V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman Kariv Yamru, Amen. May your great name lift itself still higher and more holy throughout the world that you have offered us, a world of majestic, peaceful order that gives life to all who wrestle with God through time and through eternity. And let us say, Amen. Amen. So therefore, may the great name be blessed through every mystery and mastery of every universe. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitale, Yitala, Shemeda Kudasha, Brihu. May the great name be blessed and celebrated, its beauty honored and raised high. May it be lifted and carried. May its radiance be praised in all its holiness. Blessed be. Le'elah ule'elah, minkol berchata, b'shirata, tushbachata, b'ne'emata, de'emiran, be'alma, b'ru, Amen. Even though we cannot give you enough blessing, enough song, enough praise, enough consolation to match what we wish to lay before you, and though we know that today there is no way to console you when among us some who bear your image in our being are slaughtering others who bear your image in our being. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Still we beseech that from the unity of your great name flow great harmony and joyful life for the God-wrestling folk. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol Yishmael v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru, Amen. You who make harmony in the ultimate reaches of the universe, teach us to make harmony within ourselves, among ourselves, and peace for the God-wrestling folk, the people of Israel, for our cousins, the children of Ishmael, and for all who dwell upon this planet. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'yakol Yishmael, v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel, v'imru, Amen. And now I invite you to join me in a very short chant as we sing Oseh Shalom, which means let us make peace. So I'll say the phrase Oseh Shalom, and then you just repeat it. It's very short. Oseh Shalom, 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 Shalom, Shalom.
I've always been fascinated by non-violent solutions. Most recently when I read Doris Kearns Goodwin's wonderful book, Team of Rivals, about the men in Lincoln's cabinet. They were, most of them, all his former political enemies. Stanton, you remember, called Lincoln a guerrilla. Their internecine battling made today's campaigning look like a tea party. And whom did Lincoln invite into his cabinet? These very men who had been his bitter and sometimes insulting opponents. But he, by a combination of magnanimity and compassion and humor, managed to win them over so that they became his close friends. On a larger scale than that, the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church during World War II was Pope Pius XII. And in 1942, he was sitting with some colleagues in the Vatican, having lunch, and one of the men said to him, and it was recorded later on, "Your Holiness, you could stop this war, Second World War, tomorrow by simply ordering the Italians in the Italian army, which was 90% Catholic, and the Catholics in the German army, which were 50% Catholic, order them to lay down their arms. It's an unjust war." Just to fast forward a bit, the American bishops, you remember, condemned the idea of going to war with Iraq. The Pope condemned the idea of going to war with Iraq. It would have been interesting had they said, Pope and bishops, to all the Catholics in the American armed forces, 375,000 of them at the moment, to lay down their arms. This is an immoral war. But anyway, Pius XII had that question posed to him. And his answer was, never put a man, or a woman, but they were mostly men in those days, never put a man in a position where he has to choose between his religion and his country. Because 90% of the time, he'll choose his country. Nationalism and patriotism trumps religion. And I think that's true, unfortunately. Many years ago, the American bishops, in a sort of half-hearted way, tried to decree that the American flag, the Stars and Stripes, should be taken out of Catholic churches. The United States is the only country that I know of in which Catholic churches feature the American flag. And the bishop said, when we come to Mass on Sunday, we don't come as Americans, we come as children of God. Get that flag out of there. Of course, nobody took any notice. So, this is what the Pope said, and I believe he was right. Religion is trumped by nationalism and patriotism. But there was one man in those days who said no. Franz Jagerstatter, an Austrian farmer, family man, husband, 3 or 4 kids. He refused to fight for Hitler. They sent him to the bishop. The bishop said, Jagerstatter, you know what's going to happen to you if you persist in this stance. You're going to be executed. And you have a wife and kids. And he said, besides, the bishops have said, get this, that those who die fighting in this war die a martyr's death and will go straight to heaven. Jagerstatter was beheaded on August the 9th, 1943, and the Catholic Church now holds him up as a model of Catholic behavior in situations like that. And the trouble with that is that the US government doesn't allow people to be conscientious objectors to a particular war. You have to be against all war to be recognized by the government as a conscientious objector. To their credit, the bishops, the Catholic bishops of the United States, have 3 times requested the United States government to allow conscientious objection to a particular war. Those letters were never answered. It's still a consummation devoutly to be wished to have that allowed. So, the burden of my talk is here that especially for us who are preachers, we need to hammer at nationalism and a false patriotism day in and day out. It won't make you popular, but we have to do it.